it was just something really short. You're not really sure what's going to happen next. A computer supervisor at the county building in Santa Cruz said it was a jolt followed by a lot of rolling. There were no reports of injury. Callers to local radio and TV stations reported minor damage, pictures knocked from walls, broken china, no serious damage reported. The earthquake brought the trial of the man accused of killing Polly Klaas to an abrupt halt. Sex crimes expert Park Dietz had resumed the stand for afternoon testimony when there was a series of short, sharp jolts followed by a gentle swaying. That trial is being held on the 6th floor of the San Jose Hall of Justice. As spectators looked nervously at the ceiling, deputies whisked the defendant through a side door. Another deputy said there will be a short recess, which drew laughter. My number is 8080810. Will in Alameda, you're on KGO. Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello.
What scared me about this since the last one, because I was working on an ambulance, changing my ambulance from one to another during the Loma Prieta earthquake up in Oakland, and it kind of felt like the same thing, like the earth, first like someone kicked my apartment building, and then a rolling motion going from the southern part of Alameda going to the east, because I'm on the southeast part of Alameda, and it felt like the exact same thing, and that's why it really shook me up.
That's what the big one in, was it 89, felt like to me. I was on the 21st floor of a building in downtown San Francisco, and it felt like a great big crash, and then all of a sudden it was just rocking and rolling for a while after that.
Yeah, because I was in the ambulance yard in the garage, and we had the concrete floor, and it felt like the earth was like rolling, and I said, how could it be doing that on the concrete? And and that's what scared me about this one, because all the other ones that we've had in the past, couple years has been like someone just kicking like a jolt, but this was kind of a rolling motion.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you for the information. The number is 8080810. Reports now this afternoon's Northern California earthquake was 4.8. That's the word from Caltech in Pasadena and the USGS in Menlo Park. It happened at 1:50 this afternoon. Carol in Petaluma, you're on KGO.
Yeah, hi, Jim. This is Carol in Petaluma.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt it. I live in a houseboat here, and I just felt a little wobble for about 2 seconds.
Boy, I'll tell you, a houseboat's a nice place to be when an earthquake hits, isn't it?
It is, except that when the tide's out a little bit, we sit on the mud, so I think that's the reason I felt it.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for the information. Let's see. Eileen in Mount Hamilton, hello.
Hi. Jim?
What's going on down there?
Oh, just a little rocking and a rolling. From the reports I'm seeing on the TV, we're right up where the fault is, where it took place. I'm about halfway up to the Lick Observatory. And it was pretty jolty. Our animals didn't react up here.
Kind of a big thump, was it?
Almost 2 thumps.
How about two? How about the rocking and rolling we've been hearing about?
Well, I didn't feel any rocking and rolling after the jolt.
But you felt 2, huh?
Yeah, real close together.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for calling us. Veronica in Salinas, you're on KGO. Hello.
Hi. I was sitting on my couch, and my little boy was laying on the floor, and I felt it, and he hollered, uh-oh. And my daughter-in-law didn't feel it at all. She was sitting right across from me.
But 2 of you in the room felt it, and 1 didn't.
That's right. I jumped up and says, did you feel that? She goes, what? And I said, you're kidding. You didn't even feel that? She says, no. But we felt it, and we are alive and well in Salinas.
Well, great. Glad to hear it, and thank you for calling the program. I'm Jim Easton on KGO. The number is 8080810. Sometimes I would miss an earthquake in the daytime. Somebody would say, did you feel that one this afternoon? And I didn't feel a thing. But at night, I've never missed one. You be sound asleep in bed, and the slightest earthquake, boom, eyes open. So sometimes in the daytime, I guess you miss them. We'll have more on the telephone after this.
There's a new HIV test coming to the Bay Area. They call it Confide, and it doesn't involve doctors. It doesn't involve clinics, and it's all done without names. Thanks to research pioneered right here in the Bay Area. Soon you'll be able to test yourself in the privacy of your own home. So why are some people upset? Hank Plant explores the controversy surrounding the home AIDS test. Tonight at 6 and 10 on Channel 5 Eyewitness News. The best place for news in the best place on earth.
On the next Extra, Tom Cruise reveals the amazing things that went on behind the scenes of his Mission Impossible. Why did his movie take so long to make? Why did his thriller take this superstar to the brink? Tom Cruise takes Extra on location for the answers. Plus, Madonna did it. Now see why so so many stars are falling for their very personal trainers. Sexy locker room secrets exposed only on the next Extra.
Extra, tonight at 6:30 after Eyewitness News on Channel 5.
Once there was a businessman. He was all business. Man was tied to his desk. Oh, no. A phone the size of a four-man canoe was strapped to his chest. He had a heavy phone problem. Yeah. He knew if he even put 1 foot across the threshold of his office, that phone would start ring-ding-dinging away. So what did he do? One day, someone told him of a glorious thing. What glorious thing could that be? Pacific Bell voicemail. Oh, it's voicemail that works with a pager. So when a message came in, he was notified, no matter where he happened to be. He was no longer tied to his desk. Our friend was finally free, with places to go and people to see. How come you know all this? Well, you see, that man was me. To order Pacific Bell voicemail, call 1-800-390-6790. We're also on the web, pbvoicemail.com.
How do you want to be treated when you buy a luxury automobile? At Lexus of Concord and Lexus of Stevens Creek, we know you're making a major purchase, and that quality, value, and superior service are what you expect. At Lexus of Stevens Creek and Lexus of Concord, we have a friendly, professional sales staff. And since we're the largest volume dealerships in Northern California, you can be assured you're getting the best deal on your new Lexus. For example, come in this week and choose any ES300 in stock with leather, moonroof, and CD, and lease it for only $399 a month plus tax for 36 months. At Lexus of Concord and Lexus of Stevens Creek, we provide unmatched customer service, huge selection, and some of the lowest prices anywhere. You don't need to shop anyplace else. Come see us at Lexus of Stevens Creek in San Jose and Lexus of Concord. 36-month close-in lease at $399 a month plus tax. Total payments $15,477.12. $2644.34 due at inception. Residual $2185.90 based on 12,000 miles per year on approval of credit. Call 800-68-LEXUS or 800-542-0909 for more information. I'm Jim Eason on KGO. For the record, the official magnitude is now given as 4.8. Everybody's agreeing on that. Beverly and Campbell, you're on KGO. Hello.
Yes, Jim, I live between Campbell and Santa Clara, off of Santa Maz, and we got 2 strong jolts here.
Rena Del Rey, Luis Ramirez, KFWB News 98.
KFWB News Time, 4 o'clock, 4:11 that is. Good morning, I'm Michael Champagne. You're listening to Headline News on KFWB News 98. It appears that the Southland has again begun rocking and rolling. We're getting calls from the San Fernando Valley of a possible earthquake. With us right now on the KFWB News line is KFWB's Pete Demetrio. Pete, how does this one compare to yesterday?
Mike, you can drop the possible. It definitely shook here for about 12 to 15 seconds. Now, this was not quite as violent as yesterday, but it definitely was a vibrating and rocking, rolling motion that continued anywhere from 12 to 17 seconds. It didn't come with a sharp jolt, but rather with a prolonged, violent, shivering noise that made everything literally quake around you. I had the lights on in another room as I was doing some reading, and all of a sudden this torch lamp began to rock on its base, and everything seemed to rattle here. Again, nothing in the way of anything violent, but enough to definitely wake you out of almost a completely sound sleep and to let you nervously look around at the things around you, wondering if everything's nailed down. Again, time of the incident about 4:09, and probably somewhere in excess of a 4 as far as magnitude. But again, the duration much longer than yesterday, probably 15 to 16 seconds at a minimum. And it just kept going and going and going and going. It was a little bit disturbing, to say the least.
Well, apparently some people here in the newsroom, Pete, felt this one yesterday. I'm not so sure that was the case, as I was not here at the time that yesterday's quake hit, the big one, the 5.0 aftershock. That hit at about 3:37 yesterday morning. This morning, however, we did feel it. So I'm wondering if, as far as the epicenter is concerned, you think it's a little closer to town this time?
It might be a little closer to town, or it could just be on a different fault line than what we've had in the past. All I know is here we definitely moved. It was not quite a rocking or violent motion. Then again, also, it's entirely possible that certain areas, may have translated the waves, P&S waves, better than yesterday's quake, and that's why this morning we felt it and you guys felt it, rather than just saying, okay, the valley got hit, what about the rest of us? I've got a feeling we'll probably be having some activity from the fire department near my home if indeed this was as strong as I think it was.
So I think we may be going into that earthquake emergency mode, at least for LA City Fire, much like what we saw yesterday morning.
That's entirely possible. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to make a few phone calls right now and find out.
All right, Pete, we will look forward to hearing back from you. Also with us on the KFWB News 9 is KFWB's Victoria Easley. Victoria, where do you live? You're in the valley as well, are you not?
Yes, I'm in Burbank, and good morning. I just happened to wake up and was just kind of laying here wondering if I could get back to sleep when all of a sudden, like Pete said, we got the rolling motion, and it did last for a pretty good long time. Just kind of makes me think back to, I think it was 88, 87, when it was so hot and we kept getting clusters of quakes, and I think they termed it shake and bake because it's been so hot here. So, I don't know. I don't like it, though, I can tell you that.
Well, no damage. Nothing fell, nothing rattled loose or anything like that. You just it just got your attention.
Yeah, definitely got my attention. No, nothing slid off the dresser. Pictures are still intact on the wall. So very gentle, but still nerve-wracking.
If you're just joining KFWB News 98, you might be doing so because you were jolted awake by something this morning. We don't have any confirmation of an earthquake, but it sure feels like it. We're getting calls from all over the Southland. New jolt shook a little bit after 4 o'clock this morning. Some people here in the KFWB newsroom felt it. We're now going to check in with the area that is not usually, or it doesn't usually call us about these kinds of things. It's the west side of Los Angeles. Yesterday's quake, of course, was centered in near CB Valley. It hit at 3:37 this morning. This is about a half hour later, but the very next day, we seem to have been jolted again. With us now on the KFWB Newsline is our news director, Chris Quimby. Chris, what did it feel like on the west side there?
Well, you know, it felt almost actually like yesterday morning's earthquake, but I actually thought this one was a little stronger. I don't know if maybe it was because I was more soundly asleep last night, but one thing that occurred to me was it seems like this quake came rolling maybe from the north to the south. Also last night felt the same way, whereas the Long Beach area earthquake, the small one that we had a few weeks ago, 4.3 or whatever it was, felt like it hit at the south side of the building with a boom. This one was kind of a rolling in across the building here from the north to the south.
Now, this one, did it jolt you awake? Are you a light sleeper, or is this something that was fairly prevalent on the west side?
It was felt pretty well. Yeah, I was definitely sound asleep, and it's intuition maybe, but I kind of had a funny feeling this just might happen again this morning, and there it came.
Exactly. We're getting calls from all over the San Fernando Valley. Some people saying it was feels just as strong as yesterday's 5.0 aftershock to the Northridge earthquake. We're not sure about this.
Michael Chupé, this is Vicki Cox. Good morning. We have a little bit of information coming in now. Unconfirmed report of an earthquake. It's being called a 4.8 magnitude, 4 miles southwest of Castaic, reported at 4:09 this morning. Again, that's a unconfirmed at this point. It's preliminary. 4.8 magnitude, 4 miles southwest of Castaic, and it was happened at 4:09 this morning. I've been helping answer a lot of the phone calls that are coming in this morning, and let me give you a little information on where the phone calls are coming from and what people are saying. I've taken calls from Hollywood, from Montebello, Los Feliz area, Beverly Hills. Most people saying that it's just a rolling motion. I haven't talked to anyone yet who has felt the jolt. Usually, the closer you are to the epicenter, the more of a jolt it is. Man in Canoga Park said it felt like a sinkhole, said it felt like everything dropped about a foot. It was an up and down movement and then became a side-to-side movement. A person in Fontana said it was rolling from left to right. A person in Sherman Oaks described it as a great shake, said they didn't feel the one yesterday, but they did feel the one today. Chatsworth, a lady said that it was a rolling motion, said that someone like Chris Quimby had said that she had awakened a few minutes before the quake, maybe as animals have somewhat of an intuition before an earthquake. Sometimes maybe some people have an intuition to this as well. Lady in Chatsworth said she felt it as a rolling motion. We are getting a lot of phone calls in. It's obviously awakened a lot of people nerves that were already on edge from yesterday morning. Again, our quake this morning, a 4.8, 4 miles southwest of Castaic, and it did happen at 4:09 this morning.
And those are preliminary figures, and we are checking, of course, with Caltech to try and pin this down exactly. With us now on the phone line is Kathy from Bellflower. What did it feel like where you are?
Good morning. Good morning. It was a jolt. It was an east to west, where yesterday felt more like a north to south. It was a jolt with a rolling motion, and I'm usually up about 4:30 in the morning anyway. I drive school bus, so I've got to get up early, and I don't know what's going on here, and I'd hate to have the public alarmed at all, but these are definitely wake-up calls. They've happened too often in the last month or two. These are just too close together, and I can't feel the little ones, but this is definitely something people need to think about in earthquake preparedness.
Kelly, some people are saying that this one even felt stronger to them than yesterday's 5.0 magnitude. We're putting this magnitude right now at a preliminary figure of 4.8. Do you feel that it was stronger than yesterday's?
I think it's very, very close to what yesterday was. I would estimate, if I'm guessing at all, it would be around the same fault line. If they're saying Castaic, well, you know, that's right in that area. And who knows what's going on here. It was a jolt, and it did wake me up. And it was more or less, I would say, an east to west swing. There was a low-intensity rolling afterwards that lasted for a while, and just like a little rolling sensation, waving, if you want to call it that. But I'd say it was more east to west, and yesterday felt more like a north to south type of thing.
All right, thank you very much. That is Kathy from Bellflower. Now we're going to go to a little closer to where we are getting the preliminary reports of where the epicenter of this morning's shaker, a 4.8 magnitude, about 4 miles southwest of Castaic. With us right now is KFWB's Ruben. You are in Newhall, is that correct, Ruben?
Yeah, Michael, I'm over here in Newhall, and yes, of course, that is close to Castaic. So we felt it pretty hard out here.
Now, did you get that sudden jolt a lot of people described yesterday, or was this something that slowly came about and got a little violent for you?
Exactly what you say there is, it started out slowly, and then it got a lot stronger, and we thought that this was going to be stronger. It felt a lot stronger than yesterday's. And today was another day for me to pick up some more pictures off of the floor.
So you did have a little house cleaning to do after yesterday's as well as today's.
Very little, but still, it was, you know, the second day in a row.
All right, thank you, Ruben. KFWB's Don Fair now checks in with us from the Calabasas area. What did it feel like today, Don, compared to yesterday's 5.0 magnitude?
Good morning, Michael. It's amazing what 0.2% mean if the figures that Vicki was talking about are correct. It was nowhere near the jolt or the magnitude that we felt yesterday. Of course, yesterday, the center being the Simi Valley area, we're a lot closer. It did roll, as the listeners have been talking about. It only woke 2 of the 4 people in the household. Here, actually, the dog was running around beforehand, but it wasn't as bad as yesterday. And yesterday, we had no real damage or any of the pictures falling off the wall. Not that we have any, just for that very reason. But it wasn't as bad as it was yesterday by any stretch of the imagination.
But it still got your attention. Still woke you up this morning.
Well, as someone who's come from back east. Only a couple years ago, and wasn't around for Northridge. These events are definitely getting they're definitely getting my attention.
As they are a lot of people, we are still answering dozens and dozens of calls. People are calling in from the Silver Lake area, Burbank, Pasadena, Sylmar, Beverly Hills, Glendora, Bellflower, Glendale, Calabasas, as we just heard from KFWB's Don Fair. Again, what we know at this point is that at 4:09 this morning, a possible magnitude 4.8 trembler struck, centered about 4 miles southwest of Castaic. No word on yet whether or not this is indeed another aftershock of the Northridge earthquake. We were swarmed yesterday, beginning at 3:37 this morning. It's about 24 hours ago, a little bit later, for this morning's quake. We were swarmed yesterday with at least a dozen fairly sizable ones. The first one, of course, at 3:37, a 5.0. This one hitting at 4:09, a 4.8 magnitude shaker. At least that's the preliminary figures we're getting. 4 miles southwest of Castaic. We're going to check in now with KFWB's News 98 traffic. John Carter, what are you hearing as far as reports on the freeways? How's those freeways looking this morning?
Actually, it's Richard Jacobson in this morning, and we're getting phone calls from lots of places. Panorama City, Lincoln Heights, Rosemead, Sun Valley, Eagle Rock. We've even had a call from Anaheim. Somebody called in, said they felt it all the way down into Orange County. Almost everybody is saying that it was a roller, not a rocker. They're agreeing with what you've been saying. It wasn't quite as intense as yesterday, which would indicate that 4.8 is probably somewhere in the vicinity of what this was. But it did last a lot longer, and that kept people up, and it's got people up. The phones have been ringing off the hook here. One gentleman calling in from Sunland was actually traveling on the road. He felt like the shaker was trying to roll his vehicle over, so he pulled off the roadway. No reports at the present time of any accidents or problems associated with this current shaker that occurred, as we reported, about 4:09. The freeway is still fairly light at this time. There's only one Caltrans project, so it's not going to affect any of the Caltrans workers out there. So we're just keeping an eye on those roadways. No particular problems, as we said, as far as this shaker, but we're getting calls from all over, including, as I said, all the way down into Orange County.
Now, you've got a computer screen there that's hooked up to the CHP. Could you see them going into any type of emergency mode at all?
Not at the present time. They're remaining calm. They're much like the fire department, which rolls their vehicles out of the fire station. CHP alerts everybody, and they just wait for the calls to come in. But so far, we've seen no other increase in any accidents or problems out there in the roadways. And again, because this occurs, like most of them, for whatever reason, between 3 and 6 in the morning, traffic is always fairly light anyway.
All right, thank you very much. News 98 Traffic's Richard Jacobson reporting from traffic headquarters, telling us what is what as far as the freeways are concerned. No major problems, but he's also getting a lot of calls from people from all over the Southland, particularly from the San Fernando Valley. With us now on the KFWB News Line is our own general manager, Roger Nadell. We spoke with you yesterday morning, sir, about the 5.0 magnitude shaker that we found at 3:37. About a half hour later, but 24 hours later, we're into it again. How did it feel there?
It certainly woke us up in the same fashion yesterday morning's did. It, to me, didn't quite have the same in magnitude, didn't have the same level of motion that yesterday morning's did. I'm sitting here looking at my computer at the Caltech automatic website generator. It's a little device they've got that you can dial into, and it'll tell you exactly what Caltech's seismology graphs are reading. Let me read off to you what it's told me.
Okay.
4:09 this morning, a 4.9 earthquake 6 miles west of Newhall. That's the one that we've all been talking about. 4:13, a 2.6 magnitude quake, also 6 miles west of Newhall. At 4:20 this morning, 6 minutes ago, a 2.3 quake 7 miles west of Newhall. And at 4:22, a 2.2 quake 8 miles southwest of Castaic.
Now, yesterday's quake was centered about 7 miles north-northeast of Simi Valley. This seems basically the general area, but is there any indication on that website whether or not this is indeed an aftershock to the Northridge earthquake, as was yesterday's trembler?
You know, these what this grid does is it just shows you lists over and over of little episodes that have happened, and it goes all the way back through yesterday's. In fact, on the one screen here, I'm looking at the 5.0 quake yesterday morning, and since then there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like we probably got 24 little follow-ups ranging anywhere from 2.0 to 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.6. There was a 3.4, looks like yesterday afternoon. But here it is, within about a span of 4:09 to 4:22 this morning. 4 different episodes. The smallest 2.2, and that was about 5 minutes ago. A 2.3 at 4:20 this morning, a 2.6 at 4:13 this morning, and a 4.9 at 4:09 this morning. And again, all looks like just about the exact same location: 6 miles south, 6 miles west of Newhall, 6 miles west of Newhall, 7 miles west of Newhall, and 6 miles west of Newhall. So they all look like they're roughly the same exact location. And this is based on the automatic generating information that Caltech has, that is buried in the earth all over Southern California. They've got a whole grid built. So these devices, when they automatically go off, it allows Caltech to go ahead and pinpoint that earthquake for us automatically.
So clearly we're being swarmed again by Mother Nature. We're getting a lot of little shakers. Have you felt any of those other aftershocks
Funny, I'm sitting here looking at the computer, and every time I have it refresh the screen and show me a new list of events, I'm sitting there saying, gee, I didn't feel that one, I didn't feel that one. Here's another at, they've now revised the one at 11:22 up to a 2.5. So, these things are just little 2.3, 2.5, 2.6. The only one that I felt was that one that I suspect we all felt at 4:09, that 4.9 event that they describe as being 6 miles west of Newhall.
All right, thank you very much. That is KFWB General Manager Roger Nadell. He's hooked into Caltech from his home by a computer in Agora. If you're just joining us, we are rolling again here in the Southland. 4:09 this morning, we had a 4.9 magnitude quake, it appears. It centered 6 miles west of Newhall, and as you heard Roger mention there, according to the website at Caltech in Pasadena, we are getting swarmed again. Lots of little quakes that seem to be following this original one at 4:09 this morning.
And Michael, I'm being told that we've had about 24 of these small aftershocks since yesterday mornings in a little over 24-hour period of time. Most of them, of course, in the 2 to 3 range since our 5:0 yesterday morning at 3:37. And then, as you were just talking about, the one we had this morning that was felt over a pretty wide area at 4:13 this morning, the 4.9. We've had a lot of calls from Pico Rivera, Altadena, Van Nuys, Lakewood, Paramount, San Dimas, Monterey Park, Montebello, Lafayette Park. So felt over a pretty wide area, and also felt in Chino, and that's where Sarah felt it. Let's find out what she felt. Good morning, Sarah.
Hi, good morning. It woke me up.
How did it compare to yesterday?
Well, to me it seemed longer, but not just a hair under, not as strong.
Do you think that you were a little more awake or a little more nervous and perhaps were awakened by this a little easier than, say, you would have been if we hadn't experienced that 5.0 yesterday morning?
Well, I had just fallen asleep because I have a 2-month-old. But, yeah, I was a little bit more nervous. But you should remind your listeners that you never know in California. It's a good idea to keep a good pair of shoes by the bed because you never know what's going to be strong enough to break glass or something.
Yeah, we had a good reminder yesterday.
Yes.
Did you heed some of the advice that you were hearing about?
Yes. It was strong enough out here to set off some car alarms. In fact, mine went off. And yesterday's was not. It wasn't as strong enough or as long enough to set off the car alarms out here.
So you had no breakage, no major damage to report to us?
No, but last night my CPU for my the tower for my computer fell over from it, and today I went shopping and bought a little strap to hold it on, thank God. But it was pretty bad. You never know now in California.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah from Chino. We have been checking with the law enforcement. KFWB's Pete Demetrio said that he was going to make some calls. Let's check back with Pete. Still in the valley, Pete?
Yeah, I'm in Sherman Oaks.
What have you been able to find out for us?
To some emergency operations people throughout the Los Angeles City and County area. Here, in a nutshell, is what we've got. Again, no activation of the Emergency Operations Center in downtown Los Angeles. Detective Headquarters says they've gotten a number of calls coming in, and they're checking with their people in the various divisions in the West San Fernando Valley and the East San Fernando Valley. That would be Foothill, Devonshire, West Valley, Van Nuys, and apparently they are all up, operational, and capable. City Fire has again evaluated the shaking that they've had. They've checked with their various stations, and they are not determined yet whether they're going to go into earthquake prevent mode, which is basically moving their engines and engine companies out of the various station houses and have them on standby for a while. County Fire is doing a similar thing. Their trigger threshold is roughly a 3.5 magnitude shaker, since this one may be in the 4.5 to 5 range. 4.8, 4.9, some of the figures we're getting. They may very well decide to move some of their units outside their fire stations, again, simply as a precaution. L.A. County Sheriff's Department says they are checking with their various stations in and around the San Fernando Valley and the areas, the county areas, if you would, along the San Gabriel Mountains. Definitely the station out in Santa Clarita is going to be doing what they call a critical assessment of some vital areas, meaning power supplies or reservoirs, critical factors that they normally look at anytime they have a major shaker and determine if there are any problems. So far, all those units have indicated there are no major discernible problems right now. Again, it was something a little interesting. When I called LA City Fire, they are in their command center, the communications center, underneath City Hall East. So they're about 50 to 60 feet underground. When I talked to the duty captain, he basically said, "You're kidding, we didn't really feel anything down here." I said, "Trust me, it did shake, and it did do it for a considerable amount of time."
Yeah, we're getting a lot of calls, and they're still ringing here.
I can believe it. For the smaller stuff, let's let people know that it would not be unusual that you wouldn't feel anything on the lower end of the scale. Keep in mind, there's a heck of a difference in magnitude, both in rocking motion and in violence that's involved. The difference between a 4.8 or 4.9, and as Roger Nadell passed on to people from looking at the data site at Caltech, other quakes running in range between 2.0 and 2.4 to 2.5. It's entirely possible that you wouldn't feel anything related to those, especially if your nerves and your senses are a little bit jangled from having it rattled for 12 to 18 seconds on a 4.9.
Yesterday morning, you gave us some insight as to what we could expect, the chances of that this might be a foreshock of some type. Those chances seem to be diminishing as the morning progresses. We're at 4:33 now, 4:34, and it's hit at 4:09. What do you think?
Again, it's the same rule of thumb. The question is whether this is an aftershock of Northridge or whether this is a completely separate quake. If it's a completely separate earthquake, there is a possibility, 5% roughly in the first hour following such a shake, that it could be a foreshock. Again, only a 5% chance, and that, of course, is based upon the information that it would be a completely separate quake, not a part of an aftershock of the Northridge quake of 1994. And again, while we've got the preliminary information coming in on the Caltech automated systems, again, I'd like to hear what the U.S. Geological Survey and the Caltech people have to say about whether this is an aftershock of Northridge or not.
Pete, this is Vicki Cox.
About a half a notch. All the same, here at my home, it shook my wife Janet out of a very sound sleep, and we were talking to each other within a matter of about 2 to 3 seconds after the ground began shaking. We've got 5 flashlights by the bed. All of them are checked and ready to go. We've got shoes by the bed, and there are supplies in the other room, so we're more or less, if you will, locked and loaded and ready to go in the event something happens. All the same, 2 mornings in a row, 24 hours apart. You get the feeling someone's trying to tell us something, Michael?
Pete, this is Vicki Cox. Caltech is telling us that it was another aftershock of the Northridge quake, the 409 quake that we had this morning, a 4.9, 4 miles southwest of Castaic, another aftershock to the Northridge quake that we had just about 24 hours ago. Since that time, we've had about 24 small aftershocks, and since our larger one again this morning, we are again getting at least 3 or 4 since that time in the 20-25 minutes since the one that woke everybody up this morning. And we're being told that we're getting a lot of calls from throughout the area. A lot of people saying that some people are describing it as stronger and more violent than yesterday's quake, but shorter, and other people saying that it did not feel as strong as yesterday's. Let's get a check with KFWV's Richard Jacobson now at News 98 Traffic and find out what's going on there.
Well, it's interesting because to orient our listeners, the KFWV news studios are in Hollywood, and the traffic ops center is downtown Los Angeles, about 20 flights up. most of the time we ride those things out without even knowing they're there until the phones start to ring. But this morning we felt it very definitely here, rolling 24s up again. So those rollers down below us were working. The security guard really felt it downstairs. Otherwise, we've had calls. What's interesting is in Anaheim now, 2 calls have come in from Anaheim. People have both said they did not feel yesterday's, but they definitely felt today's. So even though it's just a slight less magnitude, 5.0 yesterday, 4.9 today, maybe because of the sustaining factor, it was felt all the way down into Orange County. Our parameters now are out into the Santa Monica area, to the west, out to Eagle Rock, Pasadena. They felt it out to the east. Lots of calls from the Sun Valley, Sunland area. In fact, a security guard called from Sunland. He's across the street from one of the fire stations. He said they are moving their vehicles outside, so at least some of the L.A. County Fire Department personnel are moving those vehicles outside. As far as any accidents, we have had a very quiet morning here, much the last hour and a half or so, and it remains that way, so it is not affecting anybody who's driving out there. Several people have called who were driving, said that they were rolled in their vehicles, you know, as they fought to maintain control. You feel like you're having a flat tire, but otherwise it's caused no other problems or accidents for us as far as we can tell, and we are monitoring what's happening on those freeways.
That could be due to the early morning hour of these little tremors by Mother Nature, and also the fact that people are feeling them in different ways. They say they didn't feel yesterday's, they did feel today's, vice versa. Could also have to do with the fact that the epicenter may be, this one, may be closer to the surface of the Earth, whereas yesterday's near Simi Valley may have been further below the Earth's surface. It just all depends on where you are and where the epicenter was exactly. As far as we know at this point, it was about 6 miles west of Newhall. It was a 4.9, happened at 4:09. And very likely, we are still shaking at this hour. You just may not feel it. These are small tremors that apparently come after a fairly significant aftershock, as has been determined from Caltech that this is indeed yet another aftershock to the Northridge earthquake of 1994. Yesterday's 5.0 hit at 3:37. Today's 4.09, or 4.9 hit at 4:09. So it's roughly almost the same time span. Seems like an early morning wake-up call from Mother Nature might persist for the next few days. But hopefully things, we rode out yesterday's earthquake fairly unscathed around the Southland. A few things knocked off some store shelves in the Simi Valley area, also in the North San Fernando Valley, West San Fernando Valley. But today, since it's as early, almost as early as it was yesterday, perhaps we're going to ride this one out and come through it unscathed, we hope.
We just got another call from Roger Nadell, who's been checking his computer for us this morning, and we are continuing to get those small aftershocks this morning. Of course, the original was at 4:09 this morning, and that was a 4.9. We were followed by one at 4:13. That was a 2.6, and then at 4:20, a 2.3, and at 4:22, a 2.5, and then at 4:30 we had a 2.3. Just a minute later, a 3.6, and 30 seconds later, a 3.4, and then at 4:33, a 2.5. So we are continuing every couple of minutes to get some of these small aftershocks that people don't really feel. Of course, the original one at 4:09 that we felt this morning kind of woke everybody up. I find it interesting that it was felt, seems like over a wider area, it seems like this morning, all the way down to Anaheim.
Traveled right down the coast.
Yesterday we did get some calls from Yorba Linda, though, that it was felt there. So maybe it's the type of ground that you're living on, the type of house that you're in that determines how you feel it. But we are getting a lot of calls and continuing to get a lot of aftershocks this morning. Of course, yesterday morning's 3:37, it was a 5.0, and then this morning our big one at 4:09, it was a 4.9, and both of them aftershocks to the 1994 Northridge earthquake. And probably throughout the morning we will continue to get a lot of these minor little quakes that most of us really will not feel. We continue to get a lot of calls. Let's check in with Michelle now. Michelle, where are you calling from?
I'm on the borderline of Studio City and North Hollywood.
And how did it feel to you this morning?
Well, I have chinchillas, and I have a guinea pig, and I have birds, and they just started to go, kind of kind of crazy in their cages, and before the earthquake started, and so I was on my computer, and I got up, and everything just started shaking, and I didn't feel that it was as abrupt as the one yesterday, but then, like towards the end of the earthquake, some things fell down on my shelf, whereas yesterday they did not fall down. And right now my animals are still, they're just very still and very quiet, which is unusual.
Michelle, was that the only one you felt? We've been telling you this morning that we're getting swarmed again by some even smaller timblers after the original 4.9 at 4:09 today. Did you have you been feeling any of the other little ones?
I have felt quite a few, actually. Right after the principal one, I felt maybe 3 or 4 right after that. Now, I don't know what Caltech is, or whoever these people are that are telling you about this earthquake, but I feel that this is a new earthquake. I really do, because I've been in California all my life, and this is just kind of unusual.
Well, with the way the Earth is, it's a strange animal, if you will. It can feel very much different. We've seen 3.0s that people call it, and they think that they are extremely large earthquakes, when in fact they're not. It just depends on where the epicenter is, and as Vicki mentioned, what type of ground you live on, what type of earth your house and your neighborhood are sitting on.
Well, I have a condominium. I have a jacuzzi, and I walked out back, and if I just stare at the jacuzzi, I can see the water start to shake, and that gives me a little bit of time to know if something's going to happen. Now, I personally am not trying to scare anybody. I feel like something's going to happen.
Well, these are aftershocks. We have pinned that down from Caltech. We can take some comfort in that, in knowing that this is not a new event of itself. You mentioned earlier, speaking of predictions, that you had animals. Did the animals seem to be a little restless before you felt any shaking whatsoever?
Oh, I was on my computer, and actually, they've been acting unusual since the one yesterday. And
they're fairly high-strung creatures, aren't they not? They're fairly high-strung creatures.
Well, chinchillas are, but my birds are not. I mean, they're calm. Like right now, they're on the bottom of the cage, which is very unusual for them, and they're acting a lot like they did during the one we had, a few years ago.
So you rode through this one pretty good. You felt it, and you're concerned about it, but you rode through it fairly well.
But the building that I live in, I mean, I can feel every one that happens. And I've already filled up bottles of water, and I'm prepared, for something to happen.
Right. These are excellent opportunities to take the advice that the emergency officials give, and that is to prepare for what may become a large earthquake that could hit at any time. These are not necessarily precursors to anything that is expected to happen in the event of a major earthquake by any means. Again, I'm sorry. We would like to thank Michelle from calling. She's near West Hollywood. Thank you, Michelle, for touching base with us this morning to tell us about your experience.
Michael, as yesterday morning, the LA City Fire Department is on earthquake mode again. That means that they pull all of the trucks out of the actual buildings that the trucks are housed in case there is another shaker and it would cause damage to the building, or in case they need to go out and help someone else. City Fire is also doing aerial searches. So far, they have found no damage. Yesterday morning, we've had no damage from the 5.0 that we had at 3:37. And again, the 4.9 that we had this morning at 4:09. No reports of any damage. LA City Fire is on earthquake mode. They're not reporting any damage in the aerial flybys that they're doing, and they've not seen anything, but they are prepared just in case this is a precursor to something. Of course, as Michelle was just saying, animals can often feel something ahead of time and are prepared and kind of act a little strange. And we have Bob Collis with City Fire on the line with us. Bob, what can you tell us this morning?
Morning. We got, other than your call from your station, we had one call from a citizen in Chatsworth inquiring about an earthquake. We did go into earthquake mode at 4:19, and we're back to normal at 4:36. We did we rehoused our resources at 4:36.
That came fairly quickly, Mr. Collis. Yesterday it took about a couple of hours before that happened, didn't it?
Yes.
Why so quickly today?
Pardon me?
Why so quickly to go back into
because
normal?
There was no... all our folks were out there driving through their first-in areas, and there was no reports of any damage or injuries. And in fact, nobody even knew we had anything. Our fire stations yesterday called us off the hook asking about it, and this morning there weren't any calls.
So when you search for damage or injuries, how do you go about doing that? You drive through the streets and looking for people flagging you down, or structural damage, smoke even?
Obviously, the northwards quake, there was no problem finding anything, and people were out and about and looking for help. But yesterday and this morning there was nothing. We had our helicopters fly over, and there was nothing obvious to them either. I mean, no loom ups or any, nothing that would indicate any problems.
Where exactly are you that you weren't even aware of anything going on?
We're in City Hall East, right across the main City Hall downtown.
Okay, so that confirms what Pete Dimitriou had called down there and said you guys are you're downstairs, actually. You're a few floors from the surface of the street.
We're on the ground. However, I've been here when there have been strong shocks in this area that were obvious to us, but yesterday and today there weren't.
Okay, any advice for people who are concerned from the LA City Fire Department of what they should be looking for, or should we just relax and go with the flow, as they say?
Well, being in the Los Angeles area, people should be aware of this, and it's it's always on your mind, I guess, and hopefully everybody has the normal things that they should have, water and know how to shut off utilities and the obvious things like that, and extra clothes and shoes in case of broken glass. And Northridge was a real lesson in what you should have in case of something like this. But I think these, I don't know if I'm not saying we're crying wolf because obviously something happened, but you still, I guess after a while you get used to it, and like you say, you just go with the flow.
If that had not been the 4.9 that hit at 409, if that had not been an aftershock to the Northridge earthquake, would that create a little more concern for you? Would you have not been so quick to put the equipment back inside the stations?
I don't think that would have made any difference.